Sam Seder.
The destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Seder.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
Ever get the feeling you've been cheated?
It is Wednesday, December 6, 2017. My name is Sam Seder. This is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Washington Post political reporter Dave Weigel, live from Bama, Alabama, on the imminent Roy Moore-Doug Jones race. Meanwhile, in Washington, Trump recognizes Jerusalem as the Israeli capital, causing, obviously, or soon to cause, I would imagine, great consternation in Arab and European countries, and also making the United States no longer a fair broker. Meanwhile, ACA fix and chip renewal may be falling apart. Trump administration set to restrict food stamps. We got massive wildfires in South Carolina, and time to go. Up to 4 senators now call for Al Franken's resignation in the wake of more sexual harassment accusations. FEMA workers may have to pay to work. Mick Mulvaney is already dismantling the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. China is beating us. They're laughing at us. And lastly, Congress set to pass concealed carry. Just, what are we, weeks from the largest mass shooting incident in this country? We're weeks from the largest and weeks from what, the second largest? Yeah. All that and more on today's program. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. It is, as you know, it is Wednesday, December 6th. I'm a little bit under the weather, so please forgive me. It's been a little bit exhausting the past couple of days. Not going to talk too much about it today.
You need some supplements.
Yeah, I need some supplements. But we will do a greater accounting later in the week of just what's going on. But I want to say, I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to all of the people who have been incredibly supportive of this program, both by becoming members, by donating, by tweeting out stuff, by simply sending emails or texts. I mean, I've gotten, it's been incredibly gratifying. I think I said this probably multiple times on the show yesterday, but it really has been like attending your own funeral. Because frankly, I don't think I'm going to have this many people at my funeral that have been, I don't. So this is it. My funeral is going to be a bit of a letdown. And that's a little bit sad.
I was just thinking of Matt being like, he was a pretty good guy.
Yes,
I think Matt's rousing.
I feel like Matt...
Decent enough boss, made the occasional good point. Thanks.
Let's hear first from Mike Huckabee, who was brought on to Fox and Friends this week. It's weird times, ladies and gentlemen. He's on Fox and Friends. Apparently, he's being shot from his house in wherever he lives, but he's got a weird section of his house with strange portraits. Well, not strange, but family portraits. But it also seems like they've created some type of dungeon. I mean, that is a made-up set. There is no part of his house that looks like that.
This is the same TV corner he's used for years.
Oh, is that right?
So I think he just has a permanent remote window.
Come let us reason together. He's got a little plaque, I guess, presumably to remind him, but of course he's looking away from it at all times. So, but here he is, ostensibly brought on to comment on declaring Jerusalem as an Israeli capital because of Huckabee's large experience in foreign policy.
The Pope is actually weighing in on this, and he's saying it is about peace or a lack of peace. He said this is not going to help the peace process. I was shocked by that because I thought the Pope, of all people, would support Israel. What were your thoughts?
I was a little surprised, but this Pope has taken some very interesting positions on a lot of things. I'm not Catholic, so I guess it's not fair for me to try to judge what the Pope said. But the Pope, this is a bold statement, Pope is wrong about this. Just pure and simple. The Pope is wrong because he cannot point to the fact that this city, Jerusalem, has ever been the capital or the home base for any people other than the Jewish state. It just hasn't. It's been their capital singularly in 4,000 years of the time that this city has existed since King David. It's just that simple.
If anything, it's only been occupied by others at different periods of time. That's right.
It's been occupied, but it's been the capital for the Jewish state.
Yeah, and by the way, the Pope doesn't seem to like America very much. It certainly doesn't seem to like President Trump very much, in my estimation.
Wow. All right. I mean, we know that, I mean, I don't know. There's been a Jewish state since 1948. And there are, you know, I guess his argument is since the introduction of nation states that this has been a capital or that they didn't use the term capital.
He said something about 4,000 years, so I don't know. Nation states have only been around, what?
Not 4,000 years. 300? I mean, yes, there were Jews in Jerusalem, certainly. I don't know exactly 4,000 years ago, but over the years. But there also have been non-Jews who have been living in Jerusalem for at least 4,000 years. And we talked to a documentary filmmaker some time ago, Benny Bruner, on this program about the culture, Palestinian culture, libraries, institutions, that existed in Jerusalem prior to 1948. So that is just simply a fabrication, but it is wholly irrelevant, too, to this question as to whether or not it's going to create more problems in that region than it will solve. I mean, I think that is, time will tell, but there's no argument that is even being offered by those who support Jerusalem as the capital that this is going to help the situation, right? It is always some type of moral righteousness that they make up or some notion of, well, 4,000 years ago, Jews happened to write about being in Jerusalem, so that's how, of course, you determine whether or not the United States should recognize Jerusalem as a capital. But that's the kind of analysis you get when you go to Huck. What was the name of the show? Was it Huck?
Might have.
Huckster?
The Huckster Zone.
The Huckster Zone.
It's nice to have a pope that hates America, though.
Yes.
I hate America very much. Where is Bin Laden when you need him? Rest in peace.
Folks, there was an attempt to scare off advertisers from this program, as you know, over the past week with, and I won't go into all the details, but so I particularly appreciate our advertisers, particularly at this time. But also, I got to say, I've tried this out. I haven't, of course, been on a vacation in quite some time. And usually it's either to Worcester or Michigan. So I don't necessarily need tripping. But I checked out the website, and it's super easy to use. Apparently, the average family visits 5 websites before booking a vacation rental. I'm not surprised by that. You can spend less time planning your next trip and more time relaxing with Tripping.com, the world's #1 site for vacation rentals. Whether you're looking for a cabin to get away for New Year's Eve, planning your next beach vacation in Hawaii, or that vacation in Europe where you'd like to live like a local, Tripping.com can help you find the perfect place to stay. Vacation rentals offer flexibility, perks, amenities that hotels don't, like multiple bedrooms, backyards, hot tubs, Michael, free Wi-Fi, and even fully stocked. I don't know why it occurred to me.
There's a lot of implications about hot tubs.
When I hear hot tubs, I think Michael. When I hear fully stocked kitchens, I hear Matt, just because you don't want to go out and shop, right?
Yeah, but he also doesn't want to.
You should think of delivery.
That's true too. Yeah.
Yeah, Matt's a deep.
Yeah, I was going to say, so you can have a quick bite on the go and plan your own meals. With Tripping.com, one search lets you filter, compare, and sort over 10 million available properties on trusted sites like VRBO, TripAdvisor, Booking.com, and more. Don't worry if you don't have to wonder if you're getting the best deal, because you're going to save an average of 18% per night by booking your vacation with Tripping.com. So don't forget, if you want to save time and money while booking the perfect vacation rental for your next trip, head to Tripping.com/majority. That's Tripping, TRIPPING.com/majority. Tripping.com/majority. And
I'm going to use it, no doubt.
I'm
really excited.
If I ever get a chance to go on a vacation that doesn't involve like visiting my parents or my in-laws.
Well, I do, and
maybe it's time we actually don't stay.
I create those opportunities for myself frequently. So I will keep you posted on my testing of the products.
I'm looking forward to that. Meanwhile, you know my favorite toothbrush. I was so when I saw because it's hard to see who's not booking the ads because you just don't know. But when I saw Quip here, I was super psyched because Quip, as you know, I have recently, probably in the past 2 or 3 years, become a little bit obsessive about dental hygiene. And Quip is the perfect gift because A, they're going to use it every day that you give it to them. B, you don't have to go to a store and get it. Ships directly to your door or theirs. And C, it's $25. So it's not, you can be on the top end of the Secret Santa thing. It's a great gift. With Quip, you don't have to worry about getting new brush heads or toothpaste. They're delivered right to your door on schedule, so you replace your brush on time, and you have better oral hygiene at an affordable price with the sleekest design you've ever seen for an electric toothbrush. You can put this in your little dog kit and take it on the road, and it's basically the size of a regular toothbrush. That's what I love about it, because the key, and I say this every time, when you brush your teeth, you got to do it all the time. You got to do it properly. The Quip toothpaste tastes fresh. It strengthens teeth. It gives your mouth the perfect minty clean feeling. And I've said, look, that's what a toothpaste is for. The whole myth that it actually cleans, no. It is to basically just make your mouth feel good. It's the toothbrush. Quip's subscription model is a thoughtful, inexpensive solution for people who want to make it easy to keep up with the simple habits that will improve their oral health. Let Quip do the thinking for you when it comes to your teeth. It will be love at first brush.
Man, that's another one I got to get on.
No charger.
Got to get a Quip.
No charger.
Dude, that's
no
such
wires.
A no-brainer.
I'm on this one.
$25 right now when you go to getquip.com/majority. Getquip.com/majority. You get your first refill pack free with a Quip electric toothbrush. Your first refill pack free at getquip.com/majority. GETQUIP.com/majority. Check it out, folks. Lastly, today is going to be the first day that young Brendan gets to try Sherry's Berries. It came in, I told him, no chocolate-covered strawberries until after you've eaten a good lunch. This is actually exciting. And I'm generally, like, when we get the Sherry's Berries in the office, I freak out because I'm going to eat all of them. I don't care now. I'm so exhausted. This has been a tough week. I deserve it. I'm taking half the box. Sorry. I brought these home. My whole family devoured them in about 30 seconds. They're delicious. So you got to get gifts. Hanukkah's a week away. Christmas, Kwanzaa. You don't want to go out and shop. Man, you mix these two things, right? The Sherry's Berries, and then you brush your teeth. Bing. No matter who you're shopping for this holiday season, Sherry's Berries give you the perfect gift for everyone on your list. This holiday, my listeners can get fresh and delicious Sherry Berries dipped in white milk and dark chocolatey goodness. Oh, my God. Starting at $19.99 plus shipping and handling. Or check this out. When you double the berries for just $10 more, your gift will include a free keepsake dessert platter. That's 2 gifts in one. Sherry's Berries has more than just berries. They've added amazing new holiday treats like snowman brownie pops, cheesecake Christmas trees, and artisanal chocolate truffles. Huge, fresh. I can't even. I'm gonna have a meltdown. Fresh, juicy berries topped with rich chocolate chips, chopped nuts, and signature swizzles.
Oh my God!
Honestly,
hello.
You can see, like, I'm getting all like I'm starting to freak out a little bit.
Look at my Twitter feed.
The gifts arrived and packaged in Sherry's Berries signature gift box. No wrapping required. An incredible, unique gift, perfect for sharing. There's only one way to get this amazing $19.99 deal. This holiday, visit berries.com. Click on the microphone in the upper right-hand corner. Enter my code SEDER, SEDER, at checkout. Remember, when you double the berries for just $10 more, your gift will include a free keepsake dessert platter. That's berries, BERRIES.com, code SEDER. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking to, oh my God, Dave Weigel from the Heart of Dixie. Is it the Heart of Dixie, Alabama?
Heart of Langley.
Maybe it's like
because
maybe
he's
the
a CIA operative.
It's no.
The
Weigel's.
underbelly of Dixie.
Okay.
Deep state.
Left ventricle.
The left ventricle of Dixie. We'll be right back after this.
Bless my heart, bless my soul. Didn't think I'd make it to 22 years old. There must be someone up above. Say, come on, Brittany, you got to come on now. You got to hold on. Yeah, you got to So bless my heart and bless yours too. I don't know where I'm gonna go, don't know what I'm gonna do, but must be somebody up above. Say, come on, Brittany, you got to come on up, you got to hold on. Yeah, you got to hold on. Yeah, you got to wait. Yeah, you got to wait. But I don't wanna wait. I don't wanna wait. So bless my heart, bless my mind. I got so much to do.
We are back. Sam Seder on the Majority Report on the phone. It is a pleasure to welcome back to the program Washington Post national political reporter Dave Weigel. Did I get your title right?
Yeah, that sounds right. It's weird. Like, if you call me a staff writer, that's fine. If you call me a political reporter, that's fine. It's like the Pope has like 10 titles, so use one. You're good.
Pope is not one of your titles. Is that my understanding?
No, that's not me. That's the other guy.
All right. So Dave, you are in Alabama at the moment. Is that correct?
I'm in a very rainy Mobile, Alabama. I was with Roy Moore and Steve Bannon last night, in close proximity to them, and I'm heading back north. Really, probably 4 hours depending, to cover the Doug Jones campaign. So I'm doing it all.
All right. Well, so give us your general sense. I mean, I've seen polling that has come out that seems to be more or less all over the place. But first, I guess, how would you characterize the polling that you're aware of, and then tell us what you get your sense from being on the ground there?
It's really good to be on the ground here, like more than usual, because this is a race that I have parachuted into since the summer. I came in kind of wistful for when I came in to talk to Doug Jones, and they said, "Hey, he's free in like 10 minutes. Just come over," which is not something you can do anymore, because no one gave him a shot. So people are fairly ashamed to admit they support Roy Moore unless they're in very rural areas where everyone supports Roy Moore. If you drive around, and lawn signs don't vote, but they're not useless. You drive around, I mean, you see places that everyone will tell me voted for Trump, and I'll check, and they voted for Trump, and you see Jones signs proudly in the front of people's yards. So it's one of these cases where everyone who wants to vote for Jones is like saying so, ringing alarm bells. They want the world to know. But there is a big vote out there for Roy Moore that would have been a much bigger vote for any other Republican. I mean, if I changed my name and residency and I became a Republican candidate and I didn't sexually assault anyone years ago, I'd probably be leading by like 15, 20 points.
Right.
So it is, but you have found in the last couple of weeks something, and Bannon, he didn't make it explicit, like Dean Young, who's a Mobile-based defender, ally of Moore, he made it explicit. You basically have people who want this to be a replay of the Access Hollywood situation, where it breaks in the Washington Post a month before the election, and in the time between then and the election, people find a way to rationalize voting for the guy anyway.
I mean, that seems to be what happened in terms of Mitch McConnell. It seems what's happened with the RNC, right? Because McConnell has sort of backed off his threat that they would kick him out of the Senate if he got, or they wouldn't seat him. And the RNC is now kicked money back in after saying that they were pulling out.
Yeah, and people, again, it's fun being here because Alabamians are very polite, at least to a reporter from the Washington Post who didn't expect a lot of politeness. I mean, even last night at this Moore rally, these are the hardest hardcore Moore supporters, and they're happy to talk to me. You know, they'll have like a joke about the Washington Post first, but they're very explicit. They had Moore done this stuff, they believe they wouldn't be voting for him. But you've seen in every poll, the horse race is one thing, but when you go down into the poll and Republicans are asked if they believe these allegations, they went from 25% believing them to closer to 0% believing them, and part of that is like polling math. There are people who are independents who usually vote Republican. This is a state where you're not registered Republican; you just go in for whatever primary you want. People who are independents, they voted for Romney. They're not calling themselves Republican voters right now because they're a little bit ashamed. I mean, you're seeing that in a lot of places. And so the other thing I'd add is Moore was on track to win before this happened, but Moore has also been an embarrassing figure for like a suburbanite, college-educated Alabama conservative for a very long time. And those people were on the other side. So they're looking for a reason to bail on him, and they've had it, and they just want this thing to be over.
Interesting. And so, I mean, is your sense that Jones may be doing better than we get a notion of from polls, or not as well? I mean, it seems like there's those folks who are embarrassed to say that they're voting for Moore, but there's others who might not be identifying as Republicans, so you can't get a full notion of just how sort of sincere the support is.
Yeah, it's harder than usual to determine because Republicans are basically a black box when it comes to what they're doing to support the guy. If you go to Republican offices, you try to find a phone bank. They existed before the scandal broke. It's hard to, they're not really opening it up now. Moore's campaign is very tiny. They have only a handful of full-time staffers. They have national. I mean, a lot of people you see on CNN defending him are not even in Alabama. They're just like conservatives who have known the guy and are calling in to help him out. It's very Trump-like, and I think despite the Virginia election, which kind of shook off a lot of trauma people had about, or liberals had about, man, maybe we're always going to lose elections. Maybe there's a secret vote that comes out and smashes at the last minute. That calmed a couple of nerves, but not a lot of them, because Moore has proven to have this base that will turn out in any election. The question is whether the RNC is going to help turn people out, and whether the Alabama GOP is actually going to turn these people out. And as we're talking, I don't think the Al Franken thing was actually affecting votes down here. There's this theory, I think Matt Iglesias from Vox and other people said, that there might be voters who are making excuses for Moore because of Franken. I do think for a day that's going to make some of those suburbanites say, man, all right, do I really want to be less ethical than Chuck Schumer? But not many. I mean, you just have a state where most voters want to vote Republican. It reminds me, frankly, I live in D.C., I moved there after Marion Barry, but a lot of it reminds me of the Marion Barry situation, where no matter what he was accused of, people did not want to replace him with a white Republican, and people here don't want to replace, don't even want for a couple of years, a pro-choice Democrat.
Would there? I mean, you've been in states where elections are 5 days away many times, I imagine. Are there mechanisms that you would see on the ground that you do or do not see now that would indicate that the Republicans are planning a big get out the vote effort, or no?
Well, not really, but this is the thing that always goes back to the Trump campaign, because if you were a savvy reporter, and I try to be, and you went to some of these states before a primary with Trump, you'd struggle to find organized Trump support. What's the thing Bill Mitchell said? His ground game is in our hearts. Everyone laughed at that, but that was kind of true. But here are the differences. Let's not trap ourselves in the phantom zone of 2016 forever, if we can. The differences here is Moore is a known quantity in Alabama. Before this, his last election, he was on the ballot with Mitt Romney. He only won by 4 points. Mitt Romney won by a lot more than that. So there are lots of voters who are used to not voting for this guy. The other thing is Doug Jones is not Hillary Clinton. He is pro-choice, and the one mistake people agree he's made, Democrats I'm talking about, and people don't like to hear this, but they'll agree he goofed. He was on Meet the Press. He got another question about abortion, and he didn't answer it very artfully. He said, he didn't want to see any restrictions on abortion. So Republicans have used that to say he's too left-wing for the state, but they haven't had the money to say it on the air, and also he's not Hillary Clinton, not just because there's not 30 years of people learning to hate the guy. I mean, last night I'm at this Moore rally, and I had to pull myself away from a voter I was talking to who had a bunch of transgender Hillary jokes, so I didn't realize we're still in fashion. Not just that, but I don't have any inside sources saying otherwise. I don't think the FBI is going to release a letter today saying they've opened a probe into his email, right? There's just there's not a black swan event that seems, geez, if you can have a unlikely black swan event, if I'm not ruining the metaphor enough,
right?
Just that there are weaknesses he doesn't have that Hillary did,
and not to mention he's not a woman, which is also, I think, like just sort of a deficit that, I mean, it seems to me that Moore is activating, right, a certain mentality that. I think, a certain mentality, particularly in respect to women, you have people justifying, like, well, this is the way we do it down here, old enough to set the table, old enough to eat, or whatever it is. This attitude is, I think, activates also the sort of the flip side of that coin, which is, or maybe it's not a flip side, but the misogyny towards the other candidate, which obviously it's not going to be Doug Jones's problem. So what is Doug Jones now? What is he doing the next 5 days? How much? Let me ask you this: how much of an apparatus is there around Doug Jones? How much of an effort is there to not make it appear like it is being sent from Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer?
So the Alabama Democratic Party is like one of these houses in a really dilapidated part of town where you can get it for like $10,000, but you need to put $100,000 of work into it. They were really wiped out completely under Obama, and for reasons that probably take too long to get into on a show like this. Like what happened all across the South, most of the white Democrats lost their races or got gerrymandered out. And black Democrats who have not won statewide ever, they kind of control the party apparatus. So Jones did exactly what you're supposed to do to win. He has helped the Black Democratic Conference in the state. He's given the money to get out the vote in the Black Belt, which is kind of Montgomery and a straight line towards Mississippi. He's done that. But he's otherwise had to kind of build a campaign from nothing, and he's had outside support, but it's not quite. I saw a lot for Ralph Northam in Virginia, and that's a state that has a good Democratic Party. It's not as much as that. It is. You see signs everywhere. It is not the same thing where you're constantly seeing digital ads and you see people going to phone banks, and yeah, you'll stop by a phone bank and people are there, but it is not the. It's not the cause, like the cause of the year, the way that Virginia race was, or even John Ossoff's race was. But like it's visible and there's a lot of it. And when he shows up to places, he gets a crowd. He gave a speech yesterday to kind of reset the race, and with a more kind of negative tone about Moore. He had 100 people show up on short notice, and Moore had, with like a week's notice and guest stars, about 300 people in a really Republican part of the state. So like that's the thing about this. It is not hitting people as this world struggle for supremacy in the Senate. And I think because that's hurting each candidate in different ways. I think it's probably more helpful to Jones that he wouldn't be like the vote who flips the Senate completely.
Right.
And it hurts more a little bit because they end up making this kind of Calvin Ball argument that if Jones wins, that's one less vote for Supreme Court justices who you agree with, and that would be bad because then maybe Roe versus Wade wouldn't be overturned. And like it's something I've seen work in other races when Obama was president or when Nancy Pelosi was speaker. And here it's like a push. It's not selling quite as well.
I mean, it's equivalent on some level to vote for Donald Trump because you'll get Neil Gorsuch. I mean, maybe not, but you'll get that Supreme Court seat. There is no similar sort of, I guess, urgent appeal, and I mean that's interesting.
Yeah.
So
no, that's another thing. That's important. I mean, like people are aware. People whose number one issue is they're conservative and they want the Supreme Court to be conservative. Like they'll vote for him, but it's not. They were willing to choke down anything because Trump was going to literally appoint a Scalia replacement. It's just like it's not that visceral anymore.
That's interesting. And so, okay. Lastly, let me ask you this then. In the Al Franken thing is obviously I mean like you said, it was not going to maybe make a big determination here as to what's going on. But have you heard anything? I mean, I know you're in Alabama, but in terms of Al Franken, I mean, I think we're now up to 10 senators, 11. It's been 7 more, I think.
Did one come in while you were talking to me?
Yeah. In fact, when we started the show, we were at 4 senators, and now there's 11 calling for him to resign. I mean, he can't.
I'm going to hold my breath until there's 13.
Well, I mean, that's right. I mean, right? I mean, it's over. He's going to have to resign.
Yeah, I mean, I've already seen like the smarter Republican spin artists say, well, this is my impression of them. Well, the fact that they're all coordinating their responses proves that the fix was in, and this wasn't really sincere. It's like, nah, if he's gone, he's gone. If he's gone,
right.
Come Thursday, and actually, I'm kind of waiting. I'm unfortunately 5 hours away from where Jones is right now, but he's going to be doing avails today. He'll probably be asked, and he'll probably make a distinction like what he thinks Franken should do, and unless he is surprised at all of us saying he should stick around, he's probably going to say he should resign. Right. So what I found in Alabama, and I was in Ohio before that, and I've been traveling a lot the last 2 weeks. People are not necessarily aware of the political sexual harassment as the story. They're very aware of like Matt Lauer. They're aware of Harvey Weinstein. They're aware of Kevin Spacey. And then they're also aware that politicians who they didn't like anyway seem to be wrapped up in all this. But Alabama is different because I didn't see a lot of voters, and I'd ask, and it's maybe down the list. Even
Nope, you there?
Replacement level. You still hear me?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, I thought you said it there. Gina Lowndes is like a replacement level Tea Party pundit who still gets shows. She was referring to the Democrats as the party of Conyers and Weiner and Franken. And she mentioned Frank. It struck me that she mentioned Franken third. It still was not if you're in a studio in D.C. or New York, you're making this comparison that Franken exists and also Roy Moore, and it's not quite selling here as much, but it would if famous comedian and then Senator Al Franken resigns in disgrace and Roy Moore's still running. I think most people who are going to vote for Moore, and by most I mean like 95%, will say, proves it. He did it, and Roy didn't, so Roy's a good man. I can still vote for him. But on the margins, I think that's going to help the Democrats.
Interesting. All right, and so let me ask you this. And I know you're obviously, I don't know how much reporting you've done on this, but in the event that you have, there's going to be a bit of a fight here, isn't there, right? Because we're going to have one set of people who are going to want Keith Ellison to be appointed to that position by a Democratic governor in Minnesota. On the other hand, there's like 3 or 4 women who, and I can't remember the positions they hold in state government, but who are in the pipeline on the state government side, who are considered to be very talented politicians. And there's a very good argument that we need more women in the Senate. And this is setting the sort of the grounds for another sort of fight. I imagine there are members of the DNC who are thinking maybe we should have voted for Keith Ellison for that position.
There might be. So I'm not in Minnesota right now.
Right.
I'm going to stick here for a while. There's good reporting in Minnesota about like who has the inside track on this, and I just have heard several different names. All of them, the thing they have in common is like people who the governor would appoint ahead of a 2018 election, assuming someone else runs. So Mark Dayton, the governor, was a senator for one term. He was notoriously not very good at being a senator, but he's been a good governor, and people don't know which side of the coin is going to go on. But everyone has an opinion. It would look good for him to appoint for one of these 3 women who are running for governor right now, or the attorney general. It would be a little bit complicated. Rebecca Otto, who's the state auditor general who's running for governor, was one of very few people to call on Franklin to resign like after the first story, and that might give her an inside track, or it might backfire a little bit with people who were sad about this. The issue that is thorny, and why I'm deferring to like Minnesota reporters, is not all these people are as liberal as Franken, and I think there would.
Faded again. You there?
Amy Klobuchar. So there might be a primary if this is a candidate. If somebody replaces Franken, and let's say that somebody is a little more conservative and they vote with Mark Warner on this Dodd-Frank reform,
right.
I think you're going to piss people off because
right.
Franken was a rare, safe swing state progressive, among other things. I mean, this is like a kind of a massacre this week for iconic progressives, both between Franken and Conyers. And I don't know if Dayton has that in mind, or if Dayton's had 2 weeks to think about this.
Right.
There's a home run appointment. I mean, I remember David Patterson, who people did not think was a genius governor of New York, did probably like the smartest appointment he could with Kirsten Gillibrand in 2009. There's a way to do that in Minnesota. I'm not sure if Dayton will.
Interesting. All right. Well, I appreciate it, Dave. All right. One final question. You said you were in close proximity to Bannon. Does he smell? Do you want to not answer that question? His phone very cleverly cut out at that point.
It's the deep state.
We're getting some weird
feedback. But seriously, Dave, does Bannon...
I'm in a suitcase for 2 weeks. I'm not going to cast aspersions on people.
All right, fair.
He was wearing several layers and a coat in a barn that was probably 70 degrees. So
has anybody figured out what that's about?
Wide enough to not notice.
Does he smell like he looks?
Wait. Has anybody figured that out yet, though? Why does he do that? Why is he wearing 4 layers in a 75-degree
No
barn?
one has. I mean, Olivia Nuzzi in New York actually investigated this, and you need to kind of get him in front of a camera, locked in a room, and just ask question after question to figure out why he does this. And the banal answer seems to be that he thinks it's his thing. he picked it up when he was in military school and thinks it looks cool. That's not his most controversial belief, so I'll let him have
Right.
it.
Wrong.
Fair enough. All right, Dave Weigel, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank you.
man. Bye.
Yeah, that's definitely a wrong.
Franken to make an announcement tomorrow.
Is that right?
Brooks to continue to restrain himself from this Franken impression he badly wants to do.
What, you want to do a Franken impression?
I do. But maybe I'll hold off on it.
All right.
Maybe not the voice, but some of the details that I've been cooking up
Okay.
are pretty funny, but they might hit people the
Well,
wrong
why
way
don't
right
we?
now.
Okay.
Trying to be sensitive to the audience.
All right. Fair enough. That's very sensitive of you.
I think we all need to be more sensitive to
Let's
each
just
other.
do a clip of Doug Jones, who is Dave Weigel just told us that on the campaign trail he's begun to get a little bit more pointed in some of his rhetoric about Roy Moore. Here is some of that rhetoric.
For equal work, and I damn sure believe that I have done my part to ensure that men who hurt little girls should go to jail and not the United States Senate.
That's
he's obviously referencing his time as a district attorney.
Well, I think he's also specifically referencing, and this is for mobilizing the African-American vote, prosecuting those KKK terrorists who killed those little girls in a bombing. I mean, I know that, this guy in the Senate is not going to be like a thrilling senator for the left, but just the basic moral contrast here could not get higher in terms of these two candidates.
It's huge, and obviously, look, he is not the deciding vote, but 49 to 51 is a very different situation. And
he's not voting. I doubt he's voting for this tax package. I mean, look, Joe Manchin isn't voting for it, and this guy will be better than Joe Manchin. I will feel comfortable making that prediction.
I think that's true. I mean, Joe Manchin has been disciplined, I think, by the fact that Donald Trump is a raging cesspool of toxicity.
You know, Jenks, in between, Donald Trump being a raging cesspool of toxicity and Chuck Schumer's Jew guilt, I'm really voting a lot more Democrats, Jenks. I'm really doing it.
I'm in a rock and a Jew place.
Yeah, I'm in between a narcissism swamp and a Jew guilt trip, man. It's very intense for a West Virginia boy, Jenks.
We're going to take a break ahead into the fun half in just a second, but before we do, let's just.
By the way, sarcasm and satire, just to be clear.
Oh, is that what that was?
Yes.
Let me just say this, and this is sort of enough off point because I don't want to belabor this whole Cernovich thing. And like I say, on Friday, I'm going to take tomorrow off, and Michael will be here, Friday, we'll do a little bit more of a recap of this week, and hopefully then put it to bed. Except for, of course, of the documentary which we're working on, which I'm actually getting very excited about.
Got really, I'll tell you later, but I got a brilliant guy who's done a lot of Cernovich research has reached out about it.
Yes, I know that, and also, if people want to help with that project, one thing you can do is search for all those tweets, particularly on the 28th of November, the 29th of November, the 30th of November. I guess the 1st of December, take screenshots of all the tweets that reference this from Cernovich's perspective. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense.
Because it's a project we're working on. I mean, that's actually that. You just take a screen grab, send it in. If you get 10 of them, great. You got 50 of them, great.
I think we need to look. If
we're doing wallpaper.
Right.
We're going to do a wallpaper.
I mean, if this guy is going to be MSNBC's informal ombudsman, I think we really need to know who he is.
Well said. But the other thing is that, there's some people who have been talking about this as a dumb joke. I'm getting a little bit nitpicky here, but it wasn't a joke. A joke is a specific thing that has a construction. This was meant to be not unlike a, Jonathan Swiftian satire.
Did you see Jeet Heer's tweet about that? It was like MSNBC fires contributor for advocating disgusting Irish baby eating proposal.
Yes, that's not a joke, right? It's satire. It is supposed to. You're suggesting something that is supposed to be is both shocking and ironic, and so that's what it is. I mean, because I just don't like the idea that it's judged on the context of a joke. Because I'm not. I mean, I've written jokes in the past, but I'm not a joke writer per se. I'm more of like a mildly amusing. I'm an amuser.
And that's a good joke.
And this what I found also highly amusing. And in fact, it occurred to me that maybe this is a good guest for this program. But a guy named Robert McElvain, right? Am I saying that? McElvaney. Was on CNN. He is a historian of the Great Depression. And he is making the case, and I think it's a very good case, that the Republican tax bill is unprecedented, at least in the post-Great Depression. But it is precedented in very close to the Great Depression. You'll hear a lot of reports, too, about this tax bill that are just, it has glitches and like just the physicality of it. There's writing, I mean, because they threw this thing together so quickly. But here is how he deals with Stephen Moore. Stephen Moore, of course, is the hack, shill, Heritage Foundation, Trump economics. I mean, Trumponomics is probably the best way to say what field he works in. He's been doing this for a long time, but he's just honestly and here is that segment.
The position of Republicans then and now is take the method and try it. If it fails, deny its failure and try it again and again and again. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, well, at least for a little over a century, you go back to William Jennings Bryan in 1896 in his famous Cross of Gold speech. He said there are two contrasting views of how government and the economy should work. One is that you should make the people at the top richer and richer, and their prosperity will leak through on those below. Bryan said correctly that the democratic idea is the other way around, that you should try to make the masses prosperous, and then all those that are dependent on them will rise with them. And that's been the distinction ever since. He was talking about leaking through. That's the source of this term we now use of trickle-down economics, which we've had a couple of the Trump advisors just come right out and say recently, yes, I believe in trickle-down economics. Well, trickle-down economics has never worked. And the 1920s is a perfect example of that. The idea in the 1920s was the least government we can possibly have, the least regulation you can have, massive tax cuts. There were 3 different tax cuts in the 1920s. The Republicans were in charge of the government entirely during that decade, as they are at the moment, and they were able to do whatever they wanted. And what they wanted was mainly what was being pushed by the Secretary of the Treasury, Andrew Mellon, who was one of the richest people in the world. And Mellon pushed through these 3 tax cuts.
So, Robert,
the most important of which was the Revenue Act of 1926.
Robert, you got to start
understanding. And what it did was very much what this current Republican bill does.
He's not stopping.
Republican Senator George Norris of Nebraska said at the time that this bill would give more tax benefits to Mr. Mellon himself than the aggregate of almost all the people in his state.
Here's
and it's the same thing now. Mr. Trump and all sorts of other very wealthy people get by far the vast amount of benefits from this. Trump says, oh, this is going to kill me.
Thank you all. That's it for us today. See you back tomorrow. Bye.
Oh,
this isn't fair.
This isn't fair. Wait a second. He just told all this actual history, and I didn't have my chance to sling my bullshit.
I didn't have a chance to lie about it. Don, do something.
First off, I'm quite convinced that McElvaney's earpiece was out. Yes. But if it wasn't, He's brilliant. He's a brilliant genius.
Total genius. I want to give him the credit of saying that it was not out, because that is the best cable news hit I've ever seen in my life.
It's not the easiest thing to do, to sort of just continue to talk while they're still talking. And but the bottom line, but
it's like Steve Moore was an idiot kid in his office being like, a libertarian explanation of the Depression. He's just like, okay, young man, here's how it happened.
Right,
blah,
exactly.
Blah, blah, and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Bring out your notepad.
Yeah.
And but the idea that they have been hawking this trickle-down economics, and we've just seen it in Kansas. We had a 4-year experiment. The perfect opportunity to try this out. They cut all the taxes in 2012 under Sam Brownback. They brought in Arthur Laffer. Obviously not the creator of trickle-down economics, but the man who brought us the Laffer curve, which is sort of the theoretical support for the concept of trickle-down. They brought him in to work out what the tax plan should be. They passed it, they implemented it, and then a Republican legislature 5 years later was like, we need to reverse this because we've destroyed some of the best public infrastructure this state has. They destroyed their education system, their public university system. They had massive, massive deficits. And remember, a state is different than a country. It cannot print its own currency. They didn't expand their tax base like they thought. They did the same pass-through thing that the Republicans want to do on a national level. And all that happened is more people created more S-corps, more LLCs to avoid taxes. Their economy did not grow at a pace of all their neighbors. They significantly underperformed jobs increases relative to their neighbors in every single metric, in every both qualitative and quantitative metric in Kansas. Trickle-down economics failed. So what do? Well, of course, let's do this on a national level. And then maybe all of us, like Sam Brownback, who has now been appointed ambassador to Ether, he's now the ambassador to religion, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know where he just floats above the country somewhere and greets angels. That's what they're going to have to do when they pass this tax bill. Don't forget, folks, I mentioned this earlier. Just because I don't get to go anywhere nice doesn't mean that you can't. Tripping.com lets you filter, compare, and sort over 10 million available properties on trusted sites like VRBO, TripAdvisor, Booking.com, and more. Don't wonder if you're getting the best deal on New Year's Eve cabin or a winter beach vacation. Save an average of 18% per night by booking with Tripping.com. Bottom line, to save time and money while booking the perfect vacation rental, head to Tripping.com/majority today, folks. Tripping.com/majority. All right, we're going to take a quick break, head into the fun half. Again, thank you so much for becoming members of this program. Thank you for your support. I honestly, even for someone who is so at arm's length from his emotions, it has been really moving and gratifying to me. I can't get over the support and the kindness that you people have showed me and this program. I mean, and I know a big part of it is also just sort of saying, like, our media outlets cannot be taking their staffing decisions on the cue of right-wing charlatans.
I have ideas on how to staff media. Also rape, dating, and pizza.
He said to CNN today, I've been emboldened. Of course he has.
And of course, yeah, and MSNBC's like, is there anything else you'd like to run by us? You have any other comments on satire or media standards?
I've heard
Pizzagate guy.
I have heard they're actually letting him pick out the specials at the commissary.
Yeah. Oh, commissary. The Seder word.
Boom. All right, folks. See you in the fun half. 646-257-3920. 646-257-3920. The IM. Well, you can IM us through our app, which you can pick up at majorityapp.com. It's totally free. You might as well do it. Oh, don't forget, justcoffee.coop, fair trade coffee, tea, or chocolate. You have a week and a day or two to order your Just Coffee and get 30% off with the code MRHoliday. Last night, the Michael Brooks show, a cavalcade of progressive and left-wing guests. You can check it out on iTunes or on YouTube. See you in the fun half. We are back. Sam Seder on the fun half. Forgive me if you're watching on YouTube. Brendan was just showing me video of what I believe is the 405 in California. This is in L.A. This is, and forgive me because it's been a while since I really knew my California geography. I learned it on my Thomas guide. That's how old I am. But going north on the 405, massive, massive fires. And approaching the Getty Center, which is, do we have that video? Can you see if you can pop that video up? It is nuts. And this thing apparently is moving exceedingly fast. You know, these are, it's impossible, obviously, to directly attribute any intense weather event or forest fire in this instance or flooding to climate change. But there is no doubt that climate change exacerbates the conditions which allow for these events to become that much more catastrophic. Okay, so yeah, this is north on the 405, if I'm not mistaken, crossing Sunset, not even up at Sunset Boulevard in Wilshire. This is basically in from Santa Monica and the coast, and the whole hill is on fire. And you can see there on the right, I mean, people obviously driving very slowly on the 405 past this, and this is the lane, of course, that is going north. The south lane, I don't know if there are people driving on that side of the highway, but that's a massive fireball. And this is moving, the fire seems to be moving north and threatening the Getty Center. You just saw on the right, you could see the exit sign. And the Getty Center is set back, if I remember correctly, more or less just past that those hills. And it's a museum that was built maybe, I guess, 20, 25 years ago now, maybe a little more. So, really scary stuff. So this is good to see. And you know, again, I mean, I keep hammering this point, and I've talked about it in interviews, but the media in this country has got to begin to understand that whatever they thought their role was, they're going to have to get a little bit more aggressive in staking out not necessarily an ideological position, but one that is based on reasonable assessments and not allow, not functioning. I mean, I don't think that media has to function in the same way they would, and I'm anthropomorphizing them a little bit, but as a person would in a social setting. But you also can't go too far from that. Media has a special responsibility in our society. So it's nice to see, we saw this the other day. This woman on CNN is interviewing a Roy Moore supporter. And the Roy Moore supporter came out and said, like, congratulations on your baby. And that's what we're doing to fight for the safety of your own fetus. And she just sort of blew it off, as opposed to like, you know what? You don't worry about my body and my baby, which is what she should have said. That would have been perfectly, and it's hard in that moment to sort of contemplate that when you don't anticipate a guest doing that. But I mean, people need to start being prepared to push back. And good for this Atlanta anchor, Sharon Reed, who reacts with this. Was this a viewer? A viewer email. There we go.
As well, too, that strike a nerve on both sides of the debate, whether or not you agree that race matters in this election or is an issue in this election.
Yeah, I'm going to hold it because I think there's some confusion behind the scenes. A woman by the name of Kathy Ray emailed me. We're going to put that email on the screen, and then I'll comment after it. But I think it's fair for people to see what she wrote and get my response. I'll leave it at that. You need to be fired for the race-baiting comment you made tonight. It's okay for blacks to discuss certain subjects, but not whites. And then it goes on. Let's pull up the rest of it. Okay, so really? You are what I call a, now she tried to write the N-word, but she spelled it. I wish we would just put it on the screen. It's after 9 o'clock at night. People have the right to see it. She wrote Niger, not a black person. You are a racist, Niger. You are what's wrong with the world. And so I would say to Kathy a couple of things. Number one, you mischaracterized what I said. I didn't say that white people couldn't talk about race. Quite the contrary. We think that race is an authentic discussion to have. It's one we're having tonight because it's one many of you are talking about at home. And it's one that has clearly entered the Atlanta mayor's race. And that's why behind the scenes, my colleagues and I, white and black, we decided, hey, let's go for it, right? Because we do try to keep it real here. And I think we do a very good job of it. So I think when arguing with somebody, you have to be careful not to mischaracterize their viewpoint. So I won't mischaracterize your view either, Kathy Ray. I get it. On December 5th, 2017, you think it's okay to call this journalist a nigger. I don't. But I could clap back and say a few things to you. But instead, I'll let your words, Kathy Ray, speak for themselves. And that'll be the last word.
Good for her.
I wonder which party the woman who tweeted that belonged to.
You suggesting that there's a propensity for members of one party to write in and say, you're not a black, you're not a black, you're a nigger.
That's my version of the Chris Rock routine.
That's right.
That's how I base everything.
Why
Mr.
do we
Chris Rock
not
did
get
the
to say
greatest
that
comedic
word?
achievement in 1996 where he said there are black people and there are niggers. And I have delineated that ever since following his lead. And that's why I feel emboldened to call you that. And by the way, which is not to say...
MTV all the time. They just say this, they say it, and this, and that. But I'm a white person, and my rights are being suppressed because I can't say that word.
Why can, Future or Snoop Doggy Dogg and any number of others, they can say it, but I can't say it. It's totally unfair.
And
that's the last injustice in America. And it's that kind of condescension that made me vote for Donald Trump and burn a cross and call you a slur on Twitter.
That's right. It's because I'm not allowed to use the N-word. That's why Trump won.
If I was allowed to use the N-word, maybe I'd want to help, I don't know, like stop having police murder black children or something. But if I can't use it, then I'm going to vote for Trump because you're condescending and that hurts my feelings. You feel the logic there? Which is, by the way, not to also say that there aren't plenty of racist white Democrats.
We want to, but I think I mean
the
question is like if we were going to say everybody's going to kick in $100, and you get one guess as to what party that woman is, who's gonna choose Republican, who's gonna choose Democrat?
Oh yeah, this is a really really hard one. I'm gonna go for I've put $100 in. Woman who feels the need to publicly and anchor the N-word over a segment she disagrees with because apparently she's interpreted it as offensive to white people. Republican. Oh, wait, excuse me. Yeah, go. Yeah, please, I'll take that.
Oh, we're going to give you a little time to think about it.
All right, this is too hard. It's really hard. What party would a random woman who tweets out racial obscenities at a news anchor because she somehow feels that a segment on racial issues in Atlanta is targeting her as a white person, so she called the woman an N-word twice, by the way.
But you know what the amazing thing about that, too? Let me just add this. And first off, let me just apologize for doing the Southern accent, because we don't know how thick her Southern accent is. But the amazing part is that when she writes that, you understand what she's saying? She's saying, like, I'm not racist. Because I have two sets I divide black people into two types. The N types and just black people. So I have a lot of black friends, but I don't have any of the N friends. That proves I'm not racist.
I divide black people into two types. One that are niggers, the other are people with endless, unbelievable amounts of patience for my disgusting behavior and bigotry that I don't even recognize, and a handful of sports figures that don't show off after a good play or nothing like that.
That's what it comes down to, right? It comes down to, in her world, black people are, or niggers are black people who actually have the audacity to speak up about something that in any way makes them self-conscious.
A real tip-off into the difference there is like some type of, another word I might use is an uppity news anchor who talks about, I don't know, like racism or something, and then says, I can't talk about it. Well, how about less roles for white people in sitcoms?
Let's go to a 310. Calling from a 310 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
What's up, Sam? This is Adam, and I'm actually driving, trying to find some safe place to go right off the 405.
Oh,
geez. The heat of it all.
Where are you?
Insane.
We just looked at the video.
Yeah, I saw some of the videos this morning, so I took the 10 to get a little LA on everyone, but they totally shut down the 405. if you open the window, it's like you're smoking 100 packs of cigarettes.
So
I
wait,
don't want to say I'm surprised. It was like 90 degrees this Thanksgiving. This is just what we're going to have to get used to now.
where on the 405 are you?
I'm right on Bundy, so about maybe about a mile from the Getty Center, right where Sepulveda is.
Are you south of the Getty Center or north of the Getty Center at this point?
South.
Oh, man.
But
So you're
all my friends and family got stuck on the other side.
So is the fire? So the fire is to your left now. You're going north on 405. Is that right?
Well, it's jumped on both sides from what I can see.
Oh, jeez.
That it's not. Yeah, I could be wrong because I'm not right there right now, but from other videos I saw, that looks like it's the case.
So do you see any fire
it
now,
looks like
or
do
you see any fire now, or do you just see smoke?
Right now, where I am now, I just see smoke, but I'm getting back to where the fire is going to be because I got to head in that direction.
So
it's.
So I'm sorry. So is the fire north of you now, or is it south of you?
The fire is now north of me. Sorry, north.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, I don't want to compare myself to any other disaster victim, but all the roads, anywhere you want to go, it seems like they're stuck, and God bless everyone that's out there trying to get out, but this is going to be bad. There's a lot of fires, and the property values here, I wouldn't be surprised if it could even reaches the billions at this point, given the property values.
Can you get off the highway now? Is there a reason why you're not getting off the highway?
I just got off. I was trying to get off for the last 30 minutes.
Okay.
And like anything, there's nowhere to move,
right?
Essentially, which is the worst part in these kind of disasters. But, hope everyone's safe out there. And the real reason I wanted to call in is I kind of wanted you guys' help with something. Like everyone else, I get all my philosophical advice from Socrates 2.0 Dave Rubin.
Right.
And I went to go check to see what his words of wisdom would be in these troubling times. And I guess he blocked me, which I have no idea why. I like to have open and honest discussions with everyone. I thought we could maybe drink some old-fashioned Four Locos and read Nazi Apologists and Reason magazine together, but I guess that's not the case. So I would like to officially convert to Islam on your show.
Oh, all right.
And now that's settled, I am officially leaving the religion as of now because of its oppressive views. So, Dave,
now you can get on the
book me,
show.
I'd love to talk about it.
That's
now
right.
I'd like to sit down with you and really talk about the troubles I faced.
I can't believe I never thought of that. I'm exiting the Islamic faith after 1 minute into it because it's the most toxic ideology in human history, and it's the motherload of bad ideas, and it's misogynist, and I look forward to having I would like multiple appearances.
All right, well, that...
Oh, yeah, I want a regular column there, regular guest slot.
Wouldn't it be great? Actually,
I'll put in a word for you. Listen, I appreciate the call. Stay safe, okay?
Thanks, Sam. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thanks. But Plato did say in the symposium, to block people.
Do we have? Oh, he's still on the line. Still,
So I know the joke landed.
Spying on
That
us.
was cool. I like it. I like the little chuckle there.
Do we have that clip of Joe Rogan? Let's do that. Let's find that clip because the Sam Harris thing.
Oh, we're going straight to that. But first, we should acknowledge that.
Rogan
and Stenhope did the right thing. They had our backs. They supported us.
I thought it was a pretty funny. I thought it was pretty funny. I'm trying to figure out where Stanhope went to high school. I used to know.
I mean, Rogan.
I think he went to. I think he went to the same high school as I did. I think he's a little bit younger than I am.
Very, very emotionally attached to Harris.
Yes.
He's it's sort of like almost like Harris is like a Bond villain, and Rogan's like his bodyguard.
There's
like Harris is in there doing like thought experiments and cooking stuff up in some like chair that was bestowed by the Golden Girls inheritance, and Rogan's like, "What do you need, boss?"
Just go in a little bit. We don't need to go right. Yeah, we can start it here.
But he had our backs.
Well, yeah. I mean, look. This is an obvious call for anybody. I mean, so didn't the guy from InfoWars.
Okay, I'm trying to be a diplomat.
So you don't get that much extra credit here for it. But here is Joe Rogan. And it's weird because maybe Joe Rogan has forgotten, but we played softball together multiple occasions back in the day in Boston. Maybe he forgot. It's possible. Last time I was out in L.A., suggested, I tried to put myself onto the show, but it's a problem. It's a Sam Harris problem.
Yes.
Now, this is what I find really fascinating, is that all of these guys, their fundamental value seems to be you can't deplatform people just because you disagree with them. Right? That's Dave Rubin's whole shtick. He's the last liberal. Deplatforming us is wrong. And what's that guy? Hugh Hewitt University, or which whatever one of those guys is. Is it Hugh Hewitt or the other one?
No, it's
doesn't matter.
Prager.
Dennis Prager University. They're demonetizing him on YouTube. That's a deplatforming. Milo, they're trying to deplatform. Joe Rogan's got that. It's all about liberty. Why are you afraid of saying these things? When I try and go on the show, now maybe Dave Rubin is afraid of having a debate with someone who can actually debate. Maybe Joe Rogan is a little bit nervous about it. There's not a lot of prep involved in this stuff, but let's listen to this.
Phrase it, you're going to sound funnier than he would.
All right, pause it for 1 second. So they're talking about the tweet, and Stanhope says, if you paraphrase it, you can sound funnier than he would. I don't know. Stanhope's from Worcester. I don't know. I mean, we didn't know each other. I think he was a little bit younger than me at that time. Seems to be a little bit, not so much now, but I think we went to the same high school. I think we both went to Doherty High. I'm not sure, but here is.
It wasn't that funny, Rogan.
Edit your act. If I was going to edit your act, this is how I would say it. Did you find it?
He actually tweeted 1 minute ago about it.
Here's essentially what it is. If you can't find it, you got to find it. You got to find because I don't want to fuck this up.
I can't tell you how many times I've told Hennigan about, no, this comic, you got to see, this is a great comic. They do this bit, and I do the bit for him, and he's like, oh, that's funny, and then he sees them. Oh, you do it so much better.
That other guy's got too many words. He's using too many words.
I would just tell you too that I haven't done stand up in 15 years, 15 years, but nevertheless, good.
Out a swarm of emails, like these people attacked, these alt-right fellows attacked and
pause it here. I also want to change. I just want to make this clear. There was no swarm of emails from Cernovich. There was one email per advertiser. They maybe sent one email to MSNBC. And this is one of the things that we're going to deal with when it comes to the Cernovich expose that we're doing. You can buy bots, ladies and gentlemen, online. And you can have the guy that you pay who digs through the tweets come up with the form letter for the email. But that doesn't mean there's swarms of people.
Emails, these people attacked, these alt-right fellows attacked and started saying that this guy had tweeted which is essentially a rape joke, and that we would never sponsor you, and we're going to contact your sponsors. This is what he said. You got a thing covering over the.
It's a picture of it.
Don't care if I eat.
Don't care, R.E. Polanski, but I hope if my daughter is ever raped by an older, truly talented man with a great I hope if my daughter is ever raped, it is by an older, truly talented man with a great sense of mise en scene. Mise en scene. That's what it is. Here's part of the problem. He deleted this, which he regrets doing, but it's a part of a series of tweets. All of them that criticize people's support of Roman Polanski because Roman Polanski had raped kids, but he did really good films. And he was like, do you know how fucking disgusting that is? He was essentially saying, this is a horrific way to look at this. This guy raped a baby, right? He raped a 13-year-old.
Yeah.
Right. So this was a part of a series of tweets all expressing this, and that was clearly satire. And MSNBC capitulated, and they fired him. And I don't know him. I know people who do know him, some that like him, and it's
Let me just say, there's a lot of people who don't.
Can
There's
I
a lot of people who don't like it. No, but I think credit is due. He got the gist of what the deal is.
He nailed it, and to be even more fair and generous, that's literally exactly how I'd describe our relationship as well. I know some people that know Sam, some like him.
Right, that's right. I think that's probably also you nailed both of them.
I don't have a dog in this fight, but that's crazy. That's crazy. If you look at what the joke was, and then the fact that he deleted it, and then on top of that.
Is he apologizing for it?
No, he's not. He's
good.
He's not. What he did was he made a video explaining what the joke was,
Total
why he said it, and
Worcester pride.
The fact that it was a part of a series of tweets that he said. But it doesn't matter. Once that fucking outrage machine, I was just asked if I regret my tweet from 2009. I regret laziness led me to delete it. I would never regret criticizing rape apologists. And I agree with that.
Fantastic.
I don't know Sam Seder.
I don't either, but I know that he probably...
Pause it. Now,
let me clarify.
The thing is, like...
He's really into not knowing.
He really seems to be invested in that. I mean, I don't know Rogan well, and he was certainly, to the extent that at that stage in either one of our careers, we had any, awareness of who comedians were. It was all very, very localized in Boston. But he does make a point about that it struck me. But yeah, I mean, continue.
Sam Seder.
I don't either, but I know that he could probably start a podcast and make a decent living and not have to work for someone who's going to fire him.
Well, I think he has his own show, Minority Report, right? Isn't that his own show? Is that his own internet show?
That's on purpose. That has to be on purpose. Wait a second. The guy doesn't know me, and he has his own show. Now, although I got to say, Hayes also has made that mistake.
People make that mistake
all the time.
All the time. I mean, I know I'm going very easy on Rogan, but I know people who know me personally, and they're like, "Oh yeah, Minority Report." Like everybody makes that mistake. But he did do it twice, and you don't think he didn't have his producer correct it, which is annoying.
Here's the rub. I think here's the rub that he has, and it has to do with this guy.
Internet show, because that's what
plug it.
Yeah, and and here's the other thing. He had a dispute more than once, I believe, with my good friend Sam Harris, and he accused Sam Harris of being an
Name sounds familiar.
Sam Harris is a neuroscientist. Some people don't like that term. They don't. He's an author, has a podcast. He's essentially an intellectual, very, very, very smart guy. One of the smartest guys I ever had on my podcast.
So what was their beef?
Sam Harris believes that all ideologies are inherently dangerous and Islam is very problematic. And many people on the left think that when you criticize Islam, that you are some sort of a racist. You're akin to a racist. Whereas
all right, pause it for 1 second. All right, this is important because this is actually sort of fascinating. So there are two things that are going on here. I mean, Rogan nails it in this and that. He blames it on the outrage machine. This is in Rogan's sort of dismissal of this as an outrage machine is not any different from what MSNBC did. Because to say that outrage machine is the problem, no, the outrage machine was not the problem. The problem was this was a completely fabricated. And all they were doing was they were threatening controversy over something that everyone from Joe Rogan to Doug Stanhope to the guy from InfoWars to the most Hillary bot to, across the board.
National Review writers,
exactly.
Eli Lake. I do think Sam Harris actually said that but if you do a thought experiment,
no, but wait a second. Wait. Let me.
I'm sorry.
But so the point is that construct of outrage machine is the way to just sort of dismiss things like that, and this is not what that was about. And then, so Rogan has set it up.
It was a political attack. Be clear, yes. To fill up.
And the thing is, it was an unjustified one. I think. Listen, if I had written multiple tweets, maybe one saying like I am pro child rape, it's a totally different situation. The outrage could be just as large. And I could get fired, and it's a fundamentally different situation. And here we have Rogan now setting up the Sam Harris thing, right? Sam Harris thinks that all ideologies are problematic and Islam is a big problem. And then if you say that, because Sam Harris says that, then lefties call him racist. Now, the funny thing is, and this is why this show will never be and never could be as even remotely like a fraction of the size of Joe Rogan's, is because you're going to see Doug Stanhope now actually contradict Rogan, and neither one of them are going to acknowledge it or maybe realize it or acknowledge it. Here we go.
Is very problematic. And many people on the left think that when you criticize Islam, that you are some sort of a racist. You're akin to a racist. Whereas if you criticize Christianity, you're someone who's just not a rube, right? It gets to that weird thing because of brown skin and people's desire to not be perceived as racist. So they go way overboard with it. And
which is what's happening with the Me Too thing, where you go, I see all the benefits of people coming out, and it's putting the fear into fucking everybody. Who did I fuck 20 years ago? Go ahead.
No, but I just wanted to just, for Sam's sake, like, he's not a racist by any stretch of the imagination. He doesn't like ideologies. He doesn't like something that makes you think that God wants you to kill people. He doesn't want, I mean, whether or not you interpret that the way the Christians do, I mean, there's not a lot of people killing people over some shit from the fucking Old Testament. You know, there's no one out there enacting the rage of God for people wearing two different types of cloth, right?
Because...
All right, now pause it. Now here it is. Here it is. Just go back a second. Here is where exactly Doug Stanhope is going to address exactly the point that we have made on the show a million times about Sam Harris's analysis, right? That Sam Harris says Islam is problematic. Stanhope goes with this retort as to why we don't see that same behavior out of Christianity.
Testament. You know, there's no one out there enacting the rage of God for people wearing two different types of cloth, right?
Because Christians are generally better off. And once you get a lot of fucking toys and you dismiss a lot of that, I should kill myself in the name of blank.
That's a fucking good point.
Thank you.
Exactly. That's
appreciated.
a great point. In fact, that is the point. That you happen to have cultures in Islam that have been, because of destiny, they had oil under the ground, and it has created an entire centuries of political machinations that have created these, whether it's propping up monarchies that are exploiting the resources, whether it's actually funding these nascent organizations of extremists because you're going to find advantage, they're going to fight your enemies. I mean, all of this. And so it is not that Islam is the problem. It is that Islam's problem was they had a lot of oil under the ground.
And that specific ideologies, as you were alluding to, are funded for very, very specific reasons. And even understanding the difference, as an example, between the Shiite revival in Iran and Hezbollah, which I guess I always got to be clear even with these people, I do not endorse, but which did have an incredibly real-world anti-imperialist political focus, which we reacted to, versus supporting the Saudis and Salafist and jihad in Afghanistan, which is a precursor to all of these problems, Al-Qaeda and ISIS, because at the time they were perceived of as apolitical and just a religious revivalist movement, which is why, you know, Reagan called them the moral equivalent of our founding fathers. This stuff is all politics and economics. And what's so annoying about Harris is that, you know, he might take a few people who good-naturedly, I think with good intentions, but they have a simplistic critique and they do just reduce all, you know, like if you have a critique of Islam, it's just latent racism, which if we're being real, in some cases it obviously is. But what Harris does is he takes critiques of his view, which are actually just infinitely more sophisticated, and then tries to reduce it down to that because he can't confront those things because he's not informed enough, apparently. Which is his he's bad faith.
Whatever it is.
But that's his exchange with Chomsky.
But just looking at the argument itself, we just watch Joe Rogan come to the understanding that we have been expressing. Yes. And
Doug Stanhope get it immediately as just a guy with some savvy and common sense.
Well, yes, because I mean, I think and I don't think it's just that. I think he's probably a little bit better read.
He's from Worcester. He's a Mass boy.
I mean, I think he went to Doherty. So
he's obviously read like Steve Cole and Juan Cole and all of those guys and whatnot. All the Coles. The Coles write very well.
Maybe he had Mr. Kramer if he took Latin. I don't know.
Mr. Kramer was a buff on modern Islamic politics?
No, but he told us all about the Nova and why it never sold in Mexico.
Well, if you can understand the Nova, you can understand Yemen.
Nova. See what I'm saying? Doesn't go. Bad name for a car in Mexico. He told that story, I would say, every third day.
Oldie but a goodie. Oldie but a goodie.
Whenever the teacher starts the year by saying, like, I want this to be a dialogue, you're done. You're done. All they do is talk. And, I'm not blaming anybody.
That's what you do,
that.
though. Don't you like those teachers? Because then you can just keep them talking through the time to assign homework. That's what I remember.
Calling from a 914 area code.
Sammy, it's Jermo.
Jermo!
Sam?
Jermo?
Yes, it's me. Hi,
Jermo! Jermo, oh my God!
I know. Well, I know.
Matt, is this the first time you've even heard Jermo? Oh, okay. All right. It's been a long time, though.
Yeah, well, I don't want to bug anybody. And Sam, yesterday, the 1 minute rule, I thought that was excellent. Remember yesterday you said that people were going to be weird. You say what you need, but you need 1 minute.
Yeah, I think we may go to that. We may go to that.
Oh man, you made my day.
Are you trying to get me to hang up?
The best. All right, can I just complain just a little bit and then I'll get off real fast? I'll use the 1 minute rule.
Yeah.
Yesterday, the one fellow that called in yesterday, I think it's the second time he's done it, and he's in a tough situation. There's no doubt about it. But it's almost as though he goes from his job to his daughter and this and that. And it's like the second time he did it. But you know what I noticed when he was hanging up? He was laughing. I heard him laugh while he was hanging up.
Yeah, I mean, Jeremy, with everything else that's going on, I'm not worried about anybody giggling at the end of the call.
Good.
I mean, somebody can get nervous. But
best show ever. Thank you. We love you. There's nothing to worry about. You're going to handle this fine. Bye. Have a good day. Love you all of you guys.
Jeremo, you have warmed the cackles of my heart. What? Did I have that right?
Doesn't sound right.
What is this, Nicole Marcy? What is that? You got to IM me and tell me what that is. Because I didn't watch that.
Well, it's a woman.
A state rep in Washington's calling for the end of what was the policy?
Reinstate rent controls. Is it that one?
Oh, good. To ban? To repeal the ban. Oh, good. Oh, good for her. All right. We will we'll get to that in a bit. Calling from a 212 area code. Who's this?
Hello?
Hello?
Hello, Sam?
Yes? Who's this? We got a 1 minute rule.
Hey. Right, I was on the 1 minute rule yesterday. This is David. I was the guy who was in Puerto Rico for a month. So
okay. Well, then you're gonna get a couple more minutes. So okay. What did you?
Anyways.
All right, so you were down in Puerto Rico. What part of the island were you on? Were you on? Did you go throughout it? What were you there for?
Yeah. I was there for a month. I put about 1,000 miles in traveling around. Was in the hills. Was in the south. Was in San Juan. Was everywhere. So yeah, I saw a lot.
What were you there for? Why were you there?
Well, yeah, I was came down as an architect doing building inspections for some of the school reopenings and also for solar panel installation. But one of the things that I thought would be useful to call about that you can't read in the news is that because of like a 25-year friendship with somebody who was deep into this engineering firm that was referred to as the whitefish of Puerto Rico, I was like kind of a fly on the wall for that whole kind of circumstance down there. And not trying to sort of advocate for them or anything, but it was interesting that they got kind of tossed into the middle of this, given the kind of the difference in values of their two contracts and everything. And one of the things that ended up happening, which was really wild to watch, is a kind of room full of 40 born in Puerto Rico, like educated, raised in Puerto Rico professionals, architects, engineers, accountants, kind of get displaced by 40 guys who are just kind of like flying in from Louisiana to kind of hand over the work from the indigenous firm to this firm that got assigned their contract. And nobody's really sure why, even my buddy who's like deeply connected with this, what happened with why they got associated and were sort of like put in the spotlight like that. But there was this, I guess, one persuasive perspective that there was a perceived value in calling out and alienating an indigenous, like a firm that's on the island, and kind of generating more skepticism and suspicion of locals to be able to rebuild themselves, to be able to kind of like clear a path for more outside firms to get in there.
And what was there any pushback from?
Yeah, there was. They were,
How did they characterize
it in the paper?
How did they characterize it?
They characterized it as, I think there's just an amazing level of general suspicion of all politics in Puerto Rico. I don't even think there's like partisans in the way that we know it. There's like the community, the citizenry is almost equally suspicious of both parties. And so the kind of the coarseness of being able to kind of look one level down, they kind of like fell prey to this. And what ended up kind of transpiring from it that was a little bit of a benefit is that after some time and after some clarity that they've been on the island there for 60 years doing work, and they're all kind of like born and raised there, that the governor sort of like repealed all contracts, and they're reletting all the contracts now. In fact, there was just the rebidding for the Whitefish contract, 6 firms, and they went through, a more deliberate process, and it was rebid, and it was awarded to somebody. So that $800 million was just re-awarded, and all of the contracts are being reconsidered, which is a bit of a benefit, and I think the government was given an opening by their kind of haste in exposing the local firm, and so that's a perspective that would be interesting to look at more, and I'm sure there's going to be tons of reporting on this. The one other thing, actually, I've been a member for as long as I can remember. I love it. I listened to you guys the whole time I was there. I've listened to you guys all the time. I think I actually live in the same hometown as Jermo, so I need to find him.
Wow.
But I'm calling from Wall Street right now, and I worked with all the locals there. My wife is born and raised there. I lived there for 2 years myself, so it was really fantastic to be back there during this time. I did not see a single functioning traffic light in a month.
Wow.
It's amazing how there were a lot of kind of front end collisions, but it was amazing to see how everybody kind of worked through every one of those intersections. I never really saw a collision myself, but there's tons of growing frustration. I think they're through like the kind of coping with the event phase, and there's sort of an endurance effort now, and the two or three holidays, the Thanksgiving holiday and then the Christmas, and then they celebrate Three Kings, and especially like the young people, like the 20-somethings that I was kind of with and in touch with there, they're sort of anticipating that like it's being normalized a little bit. Like you go away for a couple of days, you're with your family, there's drinking, there's partying, then you come back and the lights are still off and stuff sucks. And after 3 cycles of this, there's this sort of expectation that post Three Kings Day, which is, January 6th, that something's going to bust.
Wow. All right.
That there might be some upheaval, protests at least, response, that it's kind of proceeding through a few phases of reaction. And there is no way that 90% power will be restored on that island by December. It's just insane. So there was this, that disaster capital quote by Friedman about, we work on these ideas so that they're laying around available when a disaster occurs, and there's the moment for them to be kind of like enacted. There is that opportunity on the other side and not the privatization side. There is this opportunity with what's happening in Puerto Rico. It's like 4 storms and the wildfires that are going on in California.
Right.
FEMA is completely at its capacity. They're bust, even beyond what Republicans might normally say, like, well, we're not here to do all this. And there are openings for many alternatives happening down there. There's just because of sheer desperation and
Right.
need. And these arguments are being, like the case studies are being.
Is there? I mean, are there
more opportunities?
Is there a political? I mean, I see that there's an opportunity, but is there is there anybody down there who has got a sort of who's developing a roadmap where politically this could happen? Because I imagine you're just coincidentally on Wall Street right now. I imagine there's other interests that are lining up and trying to figure out how to game this out.
Yeah, I mean, it's just starting to be figured out because of all the energy being spent elsewhere. But it's very late. There's everyone in every area is open to the idea of like replanning. I mean, FEMA is mandated to kind of rebuild it back the way it was, and that's just an utter absurdity in everyone's face right now. There's just no way to re-electrify the island as it went through its original electrification in the span of like 2 months.
Jesus.
So the numbers on solar panels is like every single person could get essential solar power on that island for like 10 billion. You could put 3 million people with 1 kV, 1 kW for like $10 million.
Right. This is not a financial question. It's a political one, right? Because there's a lot of interests who don't want that to happen. But all right, this is fascinating stuff.
So I'm gonna let you go. The one other thing was I did get some tickets in your name for this fundraiser tomorrow night. How should I get those to you?
What time does it start? Well, send an email to majorityreporters@gmail.com.
No problem. You'll have it later.
All right. Thanks. We'll be in touch. Okay.
Bye.
Oh, and he's the guy too who was the fourth guy at that time when I was sitting with the.
Oh, well, he's still got to tell you that story. Oh, all right. Let's play this clip from Donald Trump. Does anybody remember back in 2016, I think it was, before the election, even before that in 2015, I remember I kept hearing, because like I'll sometimes listen to the John Batchelor show on WABC. He's this right winger, but also like the caliber of conversation is much more interesting. He does a lot of interviews. And I remember hearing him talk to some, I don't know if it was Heritage or, whatever right-wing think tank, that they were pushing this stuff about privatizing national parks. And I had heard it on another show, but like much less caliber of conversation. Lower caliber of conversation. And I remember at one point, like I made a call on this program, and I believe it was over here. It was about 2 or 3 years ago. Send me articles about this, because I was convinced that they were going to push this agenda. And we're seeing it now. They are going to privatize the operations. This is step one, right? You privatize the operations of the national parks and the national monuments, and then you just simply privatize it. And that doesn't mean that you don't have access to it. It just means that, like, you got to pay maybe, $200-300, and it becomes like, you're going to Sandals or whatever.
It's a nature fun park.
Exactly. And of course, there's no reason not to put a Zoom Flume ride there, because people are coming and people love water parks.
How about a hotel?
And then, of course, a hotel.
A casino.
A Trump casino. I mean, who better than me? All right, but here is Donald Trump.
That is why I'm here today. Because some people think that the natural resources of Utah should be controlled by a small handful of very distant bureaucrats located in Washington. And guess what? They're wrong. The families and communities of Utah know and love this land the best, and you know the best how to take care of your land. You know how to protect it. And you know best how to conserve this
Pause
land.
it. Hold on. Wait. Protect it? Like, what's going on? Is there some type of invasion that's happening in Utah that we don't know?
There's a lot of unused space for water park rides and hotels, and we need to protect it
from the bureaucrats.
From the bureaucrats.
The bureaucrats are coming there. They're sneaking on. They're doing the bureaucrats. What they do is they come in the middle of the night. They make campfires. They leave their bottles on the ground there, and then they sneak off. And that's the way they exert more control. They like to party, and then they say there's too many bottles.
Do you think Donald Trump's ever been on a hike in his life?
Okay, you ready for my impression of Donald Trump on a hike?
That's him getting out of the car.
Right.
Give me the canteen.
I need to turn around now.
Are
Sir,
you-
we haven't exited the SUV. Now.
And you know best how to conserve this land for many, many generations to come. Your timeless bond with the outdoors should not be replaced with the whims of regulators thousands and thousands of miles away.
Yes. They're thousands and thousands of miles away. There's no federal presence whatsoever at these monuments.
It's much better to have a corporate boardroom 100 miles away in charge of that has no democratic sort of responsiveness.
They understand, okay, Matt, and you I don't know, maybe you don't, maybe you do understand this, but nature adapts. And nature, if it doesn't adapt, it withers. So you need to test nature, and you need to make it adapt to new situations.
Sometimes it adapts by starting hills on fire.
Sometimes it's, okay, but that's why you need to put in a hotel. Because if there's a hotel, what else is there?
I call
Cars and water, right? Because you'll have a hydrant, and then there won't be a fire.
This
Boom.
topography has been asking for deregulation for so long.
Screaming out,
just
unshackle us from these hills.
I call it the go into the dressing room at a beauty contest principle disruption.
Jesus. All right, let's play this clip of Nicole Marcy. She is a Democrat from Seattle. Macri. There was a demonstration by the Washington Community Action Network, I guess yesterday. And protesters went inside to the convention to basically say to the property managers there, hey, we need affordable rent. In Seattle, I don't know the exact date on this, but I believe is in the top 5 in terms of like over the past 10 years, skyrocketing rents. And this is a pretty good speech. 43rd district.
Right. That our state needs to put more investment into building housing. But when state workers came to me and said, my rent has gone up $600 a month in the last 2 years. What are you doing about that? I knew that it was time to sponsor a bill to repeal the ban on rent control and regulation in the state.
I mean, we've all but butchered it in New York. I lived in Cambridge, Mass when it was there, and it made it made it affordable to live in that city. I mean, some parts weren't, but it made it affordable there. Now, I don't know anybody can live even close to be there. It's good to see. All right, calling from a 505 area code. 505? 505.
Hello?
Hello? Who's this? Where are you calling from? Got to be quick. We're going to new discipline today.
Hi, this is Jay calling from the Panhandle in Florida.
Okay, fair enough. The Panhandle.
It's also known as Lower Alabama, so I'm kind of immersed in the politics with Roy Moore in Alabama. The culture here is very similar. I was surprised that Dave Weigel there didn't mention that Donald Trump was coming to Pensacola on Friday. And to me, that's just, that's a obvious direct sign of support. And that's what he's going to be talking about when he's in West Florida, right there on the Alabama line. And
same media, same media market, essentially, that covers a huge swath of Alabama.
Yeah. Totally. And I thought that Barrett mentioning I'm a first-time caller and watching you guys since then. I just really appreciate everything you're doing.
All right.
And,
it sounds like it's also the first time you're using the phone because you keep taking it away from your. Are you there, dude? You okay?
You all right?
Hello? Well, it was a great call. Are you there?
Yeah, that was it, Sam. I just.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate it.
I'll just let you guys
all right.
keep on going. Thanks for taking the call.
Thanks. It's a great comment. A great thing to point out. I thought we lost him. A lot of adventure on the calls today. One from the 405 and one who I don't know what happened. Calling from a 617 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hello, this is Joanna calling from Massachusetts.
Hello, Joanna. What's on your mind?
I wanted to introduce you all to a Majority Report and Michael Brooks show supporter who can't talk. He goes by Wheels on the TNBS Discord, and he has a statement on the tax bill.
Okay.
He says, "Hi, my name is Raul from San Diego. I have muscular dystrophy, and I'm on a ventilator. I'm 28, and I've needed around-the-clock nursing care since I was a teenager. The only reason I'm not in a nursing home is because Medicaid pays for my home care. I've had to fight them to get it, and he completely relates to Jamie's struggle in that arena. But they are providing it. But now with this tax bill going through, I don't know what I'm going to do. I've told my mom that we need to think about leaving the country because if I don't have nursing care, I'll die. My family is great, but they're not superhuman. They have jobs and lives, and hell, I have a life. I was able to go away to college and get a college degree thanks to Medicaid. It gives me independence. So when you guys say it's harder to mobilize people against tax cuts, it shouldn't be because these cuts will absolutely kill people." And he says, "P.S. Fuck Jimmy Dore. This is what he wanted. He wanted people to feel the pain to bring the revolution. But so far, all I see is pain."
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I tell him I appreciate the statement. My heart goes out to him, and hopefully, it's not over yet. And we will see more of a reaction to this bill, and maybe there will be some response. I mean, I don't know. I appreciate hearing from him, and I thank you for delivering that message.
Thank you, and thank him. And
sure.
Yeah.
He's very happy to write out, things that he's done. I've spoken with him through the Discord, and, he's a great activist, and he actually had to, I don't want to give away too much of a story.
No, I understand.
He also wants to, tell what he wants to tell and when the time is right, but, happy to relate any messages that he wants to share with everyone.
Well,
thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate the call. We're going to put that up on, we'll cut this video and put it out there. And
really proud of the community developing there.
Yeah, really. Thank you, Raul. I really appreciate the hearing from you. People should know, too, that after this tax cut, like I say, it's not a done deal yet, but they are already talking about how they're going to cut programs such as Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. They are talking about food stamps now, and there is an attempt. They're talking about sort of a regulatory hole that the USDA would allow states to have so-called greater flexibility over how they administer food stamp programs, which basically says that if you want to put a work requirement onto food stamps, if you want to do drug testing on food stamps, we'll give you a waiver for that. There hasn't been specifics, but Republicans in Congress apparently have been pushing him for months. This is according to a Wall Street Journal. To put things like work requirements and drug tests on food stamps and on TAMF, which is the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families. That's about 3.5 million people. The food stamps, of course, 43 million people. You know, one of the reasons why you would need food stamps is often that you can't find work. I mean, I don't know what the logic is for those people who are not making a living wage and qualify for the $200 a month in food stamps. But if you can't find a job, why would we help you? I mean, this is... There are, you know, somebody called in yesterday and said, what would you do? Would you vote for somebody who's not going to, is not going to win? Send a message. Well, I guess you factor in how much you care about other people who are actually really dependent on these things.
You never play with other people's stakes. Period.
Just nuts.
It's disgusting.
Let's go to calling from a 204 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
I can't talk to them. I've got somebody here to help me with my plumbing. You have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay. They had somebody there with their plumbing, I think. Calling from...
People are real informal with the show. I dig it.
Calling from...
Plumbers here, peace.
We used to, back when we were in the old place, we used to put on the guys who would deliver the UPS. They would, remember that?
I do remember that. I think, it was great. It was quintessential New York because they'd always be like, oh, yeah, great. All right. Hi to everybody on the show.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, they just were like, yeah, whatever.
No problem. Calling from an 832 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Sam. This is Chris from Houston, Texas.
Chris, what's on your mind?
Hey, man, I just wanted to, first of all, give a shout-out to John from San Antonio. He always gives a lot of really good polling info. And actually, I'm in Texas 7th, and so I wasn't even aware that John Culberson, who's our representative here, is terrible, voted for the tax bill, voted for the repeal of the ACA earlier this year. I was even aware that this guy was going to be in a competitive race, but apparently he is, so... there's 6 Democratic challengers in the primary at the moment, and the primary is in March, so it's a pretty short primary, but looking forward to see who's going to come out of that process and then see if we can get a Democrat in office there.
Fantastic. Texas, I feel like there's some pretty good opportunities for pickups there, but of course I would defer to John from San Antonio, who's the central nervous system of the Majority Report.
Yeah, you're fucking right, Sam. Don't get out of your depth. Stay in your zone.
Appreciate.
No, I mean, it's definitely leaning Republican, but there's a chance there. And then just one little comment on the tax bill to kind of draw a line from the Great Depression historian there. This tax bill is definitely going to, if not cause the next Great Depression, is going to cause the next Great Recession, and the effects of it are basically that, because the rich are going to get so much more money, the speculation is going to increase tenfold. And if you look at the causes of the Great Recession, it was not because, people were buying mortgages that they couldn't afford. It was because the rich were speculating on loans. And
right.
They're the ones that
they were literally developing.
Defaulted.
They call it financial innovation, but they were literally developing
engineering,
developing new bets to make with their money backed up by other people's money. I mean, that's basically, in a nutshell, what was going on. It was like, we go to the casino.
Even wealthy individuals.
Even wealthy individuals?
Yeah. The data shows that wealthy individuals would take out like 6 or 7 loans because you would put 0 down. So, of course, you're going to take out that debt. And then it's going to get wiped out because you don't need to pay it back. You're just going to default it. You don't live in that house. You don't care.
Right.
So for you, it's like, whatever. I'm going to take out 7 loans. I'm going to try to flip these houses in 3 months by, changing the kitchen cabinetry or something of that nature. So that's going to that is what is going to happen in this tax bill. You're going to see all this speculation, and stock prices in the stock market are already at all-time highs.
Yep.
Okay. So that's the stock buybacks. That's just going to create even more inflation. Whereas the real economy, nothing's happening in the real economy. There's no wage growth. There's no, the velocity of money is going to go down also as a result of the tax bill because you're increasing taxes on people, twofold at a state and local level. So people are not going to be able to spend as much. So there's going to be a huge demand drop. So not only is there going to be an immense, speculative bubble, there's going to be a huge drop in demand because of the increase in taxes at state and local level. So I just don't see how there's not going to be another Great Depression here. And let's keep in mind, the atrocity that was the Great Depression. It was 10 years of people
real deprivation. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, so, but it's definitely worth something that we're going to have to contemplate and maybe have some people on. But I appreciate the call.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to some IMs, folks. I'm probably going to go to about 10 more minutes today. So I've got I don't have a lot of gas in the tank. And I got to record some other stuff for Ring of Fire. Goy London. Of all the Air America alumni to have a sex scandal, I can't believe Al Franken beat out Mark Maron. Mark's been married 7 times, dates toddlers, and works in a garage. Franken looks like he masturbates to old Sears catalogs.
There was a lot of girls in the Sears catalogs that were very attractive.
Phony shrimp.
Numbers from the Bureau of Labor Statistics.
Sorry for the obscene artwork on Monday. Anyway, what do your take on Jeff Flake donating to Doug Jones' campaign? It's only $100, likely chump change for Flake, but still the question stands. Also, don't apologize for the Southern accent. As a man with a Southern accent, I can say it's accurate.
Fuck Jeff Flake. I don't care. Look, vote against the tax bill. It's ridiculous. He is an architect of all. I don't care if you put a polite face on death and destruction. It's nothing. He's a total phony. He hasn't done anything substantively to stop Trump.
This
is just pure media.
It's totally performative.
Fellatio. It's disgusting. He's disgusting. All Republicans that have not left the party or are not voting. And even
here's the point.
He doesn't even get the Collins credit. He didn't even vote against the health care repeal.
As David Weigel said, there is not an urgency to this because Roy Moore's vote in the Senate is extraneous. If Jeff Flake wants to make this check that he's sending valuable, he should announce, and incidentally, I'm not caucusing with the Republican Party. Because then the Republican Party has to decide. Then that's where he could do. There's literally 51 other people
I'm a no vote on the tax
change that he could affect. And he decides I'm going to send a check for $100.
It's insulting.
It is more than insulting. It is I think, a purposeful distraction.
Country over party or faves over policy.
Right. It's a joke.
It's just trying to create cover for Republicans that want to feel like they're not, pedophile voters.
I would speculate that Jeff Flake wants 2 lanes when he retires, and he would lose his primary anyway. So let's not pretend there's anything noble about it. But number one is he's gonna, I would assume, want to do some type of lobbying or advocacy work for the same interests that he served his entire career, like the Koch brothers. But he also would like some type of good, also well-compensated punditry job. And what you do is you pretend that you're some great country first guy, and it's the easiest racket in the world.
Yep. John McCain has made his career of it.
Exactly. He's learning from his senior colleague in disingenuousness.
Right. It's true. I am the junior senator from Disingenuous. Giz Gargelet. Sam, after recent events, I'm worried that my IMing the show under the name Giz Gargelet might somehow be willfully misconstrued and get you in trouble. Therefore, I will now IM the show under the more responsible name Sbarm Gargelet. We're all with you on this thing. Anthony from Baltimore. I think someone who handled Harris really well in a debate, for whatever that's worth, was actually Chris Hedges. He pointed out how Harris wrote something along the lines of, the mothers of suicide bombers celebrate and cheer when their sons blow themselves up. Hedges pointed out how he himself has actually spoke to the mothers of extremists and pointed out that they grieved just like any other parent. Harris was essentially racist to say that. Harris then filibustered and bloviated for 10 minutes about criticizing ideas versus people or something vapid, and it was so obvious he was anticipating a racism charge the entire time and had canned speech for prepared for it. Attorney Andrew. Well, this is long, man. I'm not sure if you brought up yesterday, but Masterpiece Cake Shop was argued before SCOTUS. Concerns of baker's refusal to make a cake for a gay couple to celebrate their union. Colorado did not have gay marriage at this time. The baker was found in violation of Colorado's law prohibiting discrimination in commerce based on sexual orientation. The baker argued that he's an artist. This is true. It's a form of his expression. It's not just making a product.
That all sounds really gay.
Forcing him to sell the gay couple would be a compulsion and a violation of his First Amendment. I have read the transcript and cannot stress to you how depressing it is. Kennedy seemed more offended by the Colorado Commission statement that, quote, freedom of religion used to justify discrimination is a despicable piece of rhetoric, end quote. Indeed, some members of the court believe that such a statement shows hostility towards religion that could invalidate commission decisions. Kennedy even having said, quote, tolerance is essential in a free society when tolerance is most meaningful when it's mutual. Seems to me the state's in his position has been neither tolerant nor respectful of the baker's religious beliefs, end quote.
Jesus.
There's more. I will, I can't read it all now, but I'll look into that. In fact, maybe we'll have somebody. Oh, God, where
we should definitely have somebody on.
If only
I know who to have on for
if
that.
only the lunch counters in the Jim Crow South just called themselves sandwich artists at the time.
Well,
right.
Guess what? Because
we can work on that. As soon as my ribs recover,
I mean,
I got some new policy for the Constitution.
First off, you can't ever determine what someone's religious beliefs are, right? I mean, maybe there's some type of reasonable standard, and we do that in the context of, in some instances. But yes, this is, and again, you know, I can't remember who it was now. Was it Haley? I can't remember her name.
Haley Sweetland Edwards.
Haley Sweetland Edwards.
She's a really good reporter.
She was on this program. Well, we had her on a bunch of times, but maybe 2 or 3 years ago, talking about how the right corporations were using First Amendment. We're going to see this. You know, this is the same idea, right? It's expression.
Let's articulate it. We're going to. It's our First Amendment right to not, as an example, comply with financial regulations because it violates our speech rights. Like that was.
Why are you forcing us to put up employees have to wash their hands?
Right. Why are you forcing us? Why are you forcing us to disclose private activities about our financial transactions? That whole thing.
This is the First Amendment is about to be is they're weaponizing it. They're weaponizing it. I mean, which the irony, of course, is that you can. When you look back and see that the court established an individual's right to carry a gun, when you see the court is now establishing that the First Amendment is a protection that allows you to discriminate against people, right? Like, why are you preventing me from expressing how much I don't like black people with my restaurant? You know, I didn't come up with this seating system here. I wasn't come out of a box. I had to contemplate, what's the flow of the restaurant? What's going to make the ambience here? This is an art.
What's the best way to discriminate?
And it's better for not to have black people here aesthetically. It's an infringement on my First Amendment rights. The idea that you can find an individual right to carry arms in 2008. The idea that in 2017 you can find a First Amendment right that allows you to discriminate against people. Because there's no reason to believe, like, hey, man, why should I make a cake that has a cross on it? I'm a Jew. Why, where does this end? And the idea that you can develop this First Amendment right completely blows away the fundamental arguments that the conservative members of the court always pretend to adhere to, which is that the Constitution is written. It is not a living document. We don't interpret. We just follow the law. But somehow, after 200 years of jurisprudence, we're finding all these unique uses of different amendments. We'll get over the Supreme Court. God damn it.
Constitution is
Thames
very flexible.
Darwin. Sam, I'd like to comment today on why I don't, whom I don't know personally. My mom is not a very funny stand-up comedian, but she could probably do a podcast. Did I mention that I don't know her personally? All right, I got 2 more minutes. We're just going to do 5 more. I'm sorry, callers. I can't get to any more callers. I apologize. It's just running out of juice here. 5 more of these guys. Henry Wallace. Dispatches from Dumb Dumb Left. According to Tim Black, the real scandal about your firing is that you kept it secret from him during your debate that you were paid by MSNBC. What? It says MSNBC contributor on my Twitter bio.
Yeah, you're going to need to make that more transparent. See, that's the conspiracy. It's on your Twitter bio, but you didn't disclose that to me before you and your co-host went all Seth Meyers. See, that's a deep state right
Don't know what the caller was saying yesterday. Jimmy Dore has not said a word about you. Boy, Jimmy Reefer Cake has retweeted all his fantastic takes and gets wildly defensive when asked about it. I am not worried about it. Long live Ronald Reagan. Kay Riley. Hey, Sam, I was wondering if you could comment on certain YouTubers like Keith Olbermann and A.J. Goodman. A.J. Goodman? Seems to me like they've got stuck in their own narrative, simply choose to reinforce that narrative. I can't honestly believe that they still stand behind their own message. I would not couple Keith Olbermann with A.J. Goodman. That's where I would start. But yeah, I also, I don't know. Hey, Sam, not a joke, just satire. Then why did you follow up with a second tweet saying, come on, it's a joke, it's funny. I think it's good that you're taking the day off to get this because you are the victim of the Cernovich onslaught. However, if you're planning to have Michael host tomorrow, aren't we, the MR audience, the real victims? Michael, I kid. I love you. He said I kid. No, but seriously, guys, I can see the social media headlines tomorrow. Rape apologist Sam Seder at it again as he repeated calls. I'm not worried about it, man.
Do you know what one funny tweet was that now everybody tunes in after fake controversy, listens to the second half, and discovers much worse than previously thought.
Right. Seder, I don't even know her. Forcing Franken to resign is the wrong move. Franken created the situation where Jeff Sessions perjured himself. We will never prevail if our rules are this much more punitive than theirs. Well, the problem is here, look, if you're just making a political assessment on this, Franken's not going to be in that position to do this to Jeff Sessions again for a long, long, long time.
You're trying to get me to perjure myself again, Jew? Don't you have a photo to take and perhaps a woman's rear end to stroke during a state fair? Next question.
Right, exactly. Cuck Todd. This week on Meet the Press, I gloat as the primary rival in my personal professional life. Sam Seder falls due to poor reading comprehension. MR member, that was a very nice conversation with John from San Antonio yesterday about the time you finally thanked him for carrying the shit show for all these years. Moby Dog, every time we argue about the impact of the budget bill, we lose. The whole purpose is to fulfill the Koch brothers' plan of killing all social investment. This needs to be the first thing we point out, that the GOP is just doing their bidding. All arguments about details is falling into their trap. Christo, Sam, rather than saying it's like attending your funeral, frankly, it reminds me of outpouring support for good guy George Bailey at the end of It's Wonderful Life. And this longtime member says, boy, do you deserve it. Thank you, Christo. Very kind. And the final I am of the day. From my sister, Julie, crying after that letter. Also, please wish your sister a happy birthday today since you're off tomorrow. That is my other sister, Betsy. Betsy, happy birthday.
I'll be on it tomorrow. Don't worry.
All right, folks. See you then.
It might take all the strength I got to get to where I want, but I know somehow I'm gonna get there. I wasn't looking when I just got caught between the truth and the lie.